see tomorrow, little boy, you gon' learn. All them pretty bitches leave your ass in the urn. You ain't saw your last rock, you just better earn. But I pray you see tomorrow, little boy, you gon' learn.
Hello everyone, this is Flynn. Today we're going to go cross event preparation. I'm seeing a big difference between the higher end camps and the not so high end camps. And they're getting frustrated and not competing in Clash and not performing as well as they can on Camp Boss. And a lot of people think it's because of some pay to win reason, because there's just such huge difference between us and them that there's just no way to compete. So they lose their drive to do so and just don't really try. I don't think that is at all. In Red Hand, we perform very well. That's the only reason we are where we are. We don't have mystical powers. We don't have, the cutting edge equipment all throughout the camp. And no, there's only a handful of people in our camp that are pay to win. The reason we are where we are is because we know what we know. And I'd like to pass some of that information on to you guys to try to get everybody up to par and get some life back into competition when it comes to the Sandcastle server. So I'm going to disclose a couple of our trade secrets to you guys to try to help you out and get you the edge where you need to be. So as far as event preparation goes, I could talk about this for hours and hours and hours. What you need to do for every single event when it comes to PvP, Camp Boss, Camp Invasion, all that other stuff when it comes to food and gear and weapon mods, how to spread weapon mods unevenly to get the best performance. But that's not really something that I'm going to be able to do for you guys. You're going to have to come with those little bitty calculations on your own and for what your play style is. So what I'm going to do is go over some general things that everyone needs to know and keep in mind when they're going about their day-to-day events. Now, what I'd like you to do is imagine that you're getting ready for an event. We will use Camp Boss for an example. Now, I'm not going to go over gear with you guys. That should be a no-brainer. Higher armor, higher AP, higher stats are just, what you should be looking for in your day-to-day. That shouldn't be event preparation. You should just know what to wear. That being said, at this point in time, it being March in 2020, we know that the Collector's Edition KSG with some infected damage on it would be best to use against the Camp Boss. Preferably max AP on that. Look for as high AP as you can get. That can get pretty pricey, but at the same point in time for us at the top end, we know it's worth it. You only need one KSG, because once you have it, you don't really drain the Dura on it very, very fast, and you can always sleep off any damage that you do throughout the day. So definitely get a high-end Collector's Edition KSG. It's worth it. Now you have your gear set up. You have an event coming up. What should you do? A lot of people just try to remember what to do and wing it. And a lot of times they forget what they're supposed to do. And a lot of people just don't know everything that you're supposed to do. And without having to hand feed everybody everything that they're supposed to do for every single event, what we at Red Hand have come up with is a simplified manner. We call it FEEDDS. That's FEEEDDS. Sounds stupid, but it's incredibly effective. FEEDDS stands for Formula Plus, Energize, Enhance, Eat, Drink, Drone, Serum. If you can remember FEEDDS before every single event, you will never go anywhere unprepared. You'll maximize your damage. You'll maximize your tankiness in order to survive PvP. You'll do incredible things, and it's an easy thing to remember. Yes, it sounds stupid. Feed sounds retarded, and it is. But the simplification is what works. It's what you will remember. If you can remember that, you'll always be going everywhere completely prepared. You'll be ahead of your field. And a lot of people lack when they go into these places just simply because they're not prepared. So I'll go over this for you real quick. FEEDDS. Formula Plus, Energize, Enhance, Eat, Drink, Drone, Serum. Now we're gonna stick with the guise of getting ready for Camp Boss. Getting ready for Camp Boss, we know several things. So we're gonna try to apply that with all of the letters of FEEDDS. So let's start out with Formula Plus. So a lot of people get the understanding that only offensive things are really going to help you out with Camp Boss as far as equipment goes. And that's not true. A lot of people don't wear their helmets to Camp Boss because, well, helmet doesn't do anything offensively. That's not true. Formula Plus can be applied to the helmet using damage film and accuracy crystals, and at minimum, you're going to get, if you roll enough times, you'll get infected damage and light firearms damage, which can bring your percentage of damage done up at minimum of 3% just by wearing your helmet and having those Formula Plus applied. And that's only with level 1 Formula Plus. You can increase your damage by 3% at minimum just by rolling that with level 1 Formula Plus. It's incredibly worth it. You need to do it. And you need to do that with your armor and your weapon as well. Now, think about that. If you use level 1, the base level Formula Plus, and get infected damage and light firearms damage on all three, your helmet, your armor, and your main weapon, you'll have an extra 9% damage to the Camp Boss just by putting your shit on. That's not having that is neglectful. You should definitely be doing that. Now, as far as your auxiliary weapon goes, a lot of people say Formula Plus doesn't work on your auxiliary. That's not true entirely. The only one that we found that's worth putting on it is crit through attack regions. That's the little red vials that you can get. Now, mind you, any stat that's coming from your auxiliary, except for the skill stats like Bloodbath and Devastate, every other stat only takes 10% of it. So if you roll 1.5% crit on there because you used a level 1 attack regent, you're only going to get 0.15% crit to your actual main weapon damage. But at the same point in time, it's better than nothing. Just do it. As well, a lot of people have asked me about back damage and the static damage from the other Formula Plus items. Those can be useful, but they're situational. You don't want to prioritize them. What you need to do is at least get a base of Formula Plus through the attack or accuracy crystal and damage film. Get that infected damage, get that light firearms damage. That's what's absolutely necessary. The rest of it, you know, if you're pay to win and you want to roll until you get all that you need and really high numbers, be my guest. It's going to cost you a lot. For everybody that's just trying to get by, get that infected damage, get that light firearms damage. That is what's absolutely necessary. So once you've done that, you're looking at light firearms damage and infected damage on your helmet, your armor, and your weapon. That should increase your damage automatically to Camp Boss by a lot. The same thing can be done with PvP and whatnot. I'm not going to get into it a whole lot, but you know, instead of damage to infected, you want damage to players, which is just as effective. Not to have that and going into Clash, it's neglectful. You're not ready, if you're not willing to do that, then you're going to lose Clash. That's the level we play at right now. So we're going to stick with Camp Boss, and let's move on to Energize. Now, like I said, we're at Camp Boss. Energizing doesn't work on Camp Boss. A lot of people like to say that it does, a small amount. No, it doesn't at all. Trust me, they turned off energizing for Camp Boss. Why? I don't know. They just did. Energizing doesn't work for Camp Boss, so we're not going to energize. We're going to skip this E. Don't neglect it, though. If you go into Clash, if you go into Far Star, if you go into any of these other things without energizing first, you're crippled. You've literally gone in there without legs. Go ahead. You're going to get your butt whooped. It doesn't matter who you are. I will not do Nancy without using the really low cost energizing that they have in Nancy. I'm not going into Farstar unless I'm going in there to talk to somebody without any armor for no reason. If I'm going to Farstar to PvP, I'm going in energized. Clash? You're out of your mind if you think I'm going to do Clash without energizing first. This is base level stuff. You need to do it. Do not forget the first E. It's useful. Absolutely useful. And everything except for Camp Boss. And that includes Infected Invasion. That's another thing. You need to energize if you're going into Infected Invasion. All right. I mean, that's pretty simple, though. With Energize, if you're doing, say, Infected Invasion, you want to have concentration on your main weapon, and then you want to have chaos on your auxiliary. Yes, energizing your auxiliary affects your main weapon damage. Do it. Having concentration on your main weapon and having chaos on your auxiliary weapon drastically increases your damage. My howitzer hits the zombies for a level 25 invasion, hits the zombies outside of the gate for 2,000 a pop. That's every single zombie hit by my howitzer is getting hit for 2,000 damage. Not having energizing, we're talking about maybe it hits 1,000. It's stupid not to. That's a huge damage buff. All right, let's move on. The second E in FEEDDS is Enhance. Now, with Enhance, we're talking about mods. If you don't already know, when you put a fresh level 1 material into your mods, it boosts your mod level to the next level for a half hour every material that you put in there. So what I'll do before any event that I do is on my stock, which should be maxed level as high as you can get it, I'll put it into my muzzle, which should be the next most important that you do. I'll put it into my sculpture, which should be the next most important thing you do. And then I'll put it into my aim assist, which should be the fourth most important mod that you're leveling up. That will raise the level of those mods by 1 for a half hour per material that I put in there. It doesn't take a lot to get 4 materials every day. Even if you're free to play, the weapon store sells weapons materials. You can get a weapon material from duty points. You can get a weapon material from the mall in the daily shipment, depending on what it costs. Often it's just gold bars. Also check the events. The events for event tokens have weapon and armor materials. For Camp Boss, I'm just putting weapon materials on there. For PvP, I'm putting an extra weapon material in everything that I have, including armor. That'll raise my armor to a level as well and make me super beefier. It's useful. You need to do it. It's, again, going into a major event like Camp Boss, Invasion, or Clash without having your weapon mods enhanced. It's stupid. You're crippling yourself when you could just be rolling around like a god. Make sure you do it. The third E in FEEDDS is Eat. This is another one that is very event oriented, and it changes a lot. Here in March of 2020, for Camp Boss, I think the go-to right now is the pork belly. It has 10% damage to infected. It has 5% fire rate, and it has crit immunity on there, which isn't useful in the Camp Boss, but it's cheap to make, and every single time you make it, when you have it mastered, you get that 10, 5, and 5. Fire rate increase is huge. Man, that's a lot of damage. Do not negate that. And then 10% to infected is obviously a heck of a lot. It's 10% extra damage to the Camp Boss. It's free damage. You've got to do it. You also the oxtail, whatever it's called, is incredibly effective once it's mastered and you get a really good roll on it. When you're making that and you have it mastered, you have a rare chance of getting what we call a 10-5-5. That's 10% to infected, 5% fire rate, and 5% headshot increased damage, which in Camp Boss, you're trying to get the headshots as much as you can, so that extra 5% sends your damage just that much higher. So that's the best, but it's pretty rare to get unless you just make food all day, every day. So we kind of edge people to go to the pork belly, just because if you're just trying to make food for events and then get done, that'll get you where you need to be. It doesn't have the headshot damage, but it's not crippling you not to have it. But you know, get what you can get. When you go into Camp Boss, you need at least 2 of these foods. One to start out with, and then when it runs out 10 minutes later, halfway through the boss fight, another one to eat. Yes, the flame shadow armor has the buff with it that comes with 30% timer on food, and there's a few other things that you can do to increase your time on food. It doesn't make a difference. Either halfway through the boss fight or 2/3 of the way through the boss fight, you're going to need to eat another food, or your damage is going to go down. Don't have your damage go down. Be prepared to eat more food. You know, just go prepared when it comes to food. Make the good food. Get the good food. Find somebody in your camp that can help you out with the good food. It's another one. You need to stay at par with what the requirements are for what you're fighting. Not going in there with the right food is stupid. Let's get on to the next one. Now we're on to the first D, which is drink. A lot of people say, you know, why is eat and drink different? It's obvious in the game. You have drinks and you have actual food that you eat. This just makes it so you don't forget one or the other. With drink, we're talking about your reds and greens and blues for PvP, and we're talking about your advanced antiseptic for PvE. For a lot of people, I still don't understand why this is a thing. People don't know that you need to have advanced antiseptic if you're going to be fighting infected creatures. This is not because the infected creatures will hit you and your health goes down and you need to get your health up to be well. No. Advanced antiseptic raises your damage to infected by 15% for 10 minutes. That's huge. Going against an infected invasion or camp boss without advanced antiseptic is utterly stupid. It's like showing up without your gun. Why even bother? It's 15% damage. It's the biggest buff you can get. There's no reason not to have it, and it's not expensive. Every single time you go up against infected creatures, you had better have advanced antiseptic. I'm talking about mystic creatures. I'm talking about strongholds, rebuilds. If you don't have advanced antiseptic, you're just not doing the damage you're supposed to do. It's part of the game. Bring it. Don't forget it. Always have at least 10 advanced antiseptics in your inventory at all times. It's always useful. And even in PvP, if you're in Clash and you don't have advanced antiseptics, then you're not paying attention. Because what's going to happen is a virologist is going to get a hold of you, lower your health down, and you're going to be stuck and sucking because you can't jump and you can't run. You're dying quick. Bring advanced antiseptic. If you're in PvP, reds, greens, blues, reds and greens, we're talking about the Titan elements that you can buy from the Nancy Drill Badge vendor. And the blues, we're talking about Rainbow Paradise Zero that you can buy from the soda machines. These are clinched for PvP. If you don't have them, again, it's just like the advanced antiseptic. You're not trying to PvP if you don't bring PvP shit. Reds and greens lowers the damage that you take from players and raises that damage that you give to players. Blues lowers your damage taken by players, again, for 15 minutes. And they're not expensive. They're not expensive at all, and they're readily available almost anywhere that you go. Reds and greens is Nancy Drill Badge vendor. It's at your camp's helicopter. You can't have it at an easier place. Blues, there's a soda machine in your camp that you could buy one every hour for $1,000 new dollars. And then you can go to Charlestown. There's another soda machine there that you can use. And then you can go to Far Star. There's another soda machine that you can use there. Every hour you can get 3 of those to be prepared. So literally just, you're on for 6 hours maybe or whatever a day. That means that every hour for 6 hours you can get 3. You could be ready for events for an entire month just by paying attention, doing your due diligence. There's no reason why you shouldn't have red, green, and blue drinks when you're going into PvP. The second D is drone. I know this is a buzzword for a lot of you guys, and I'm hopefully going to solve that for you here. I know, drones are expensive as hell. They can be the biggest money soak that you have and just take your wallet away from you. For you free-to-play players, I get it, man. I really do. It costs so much to run a drone, it's ridiculous. And then NetEase with their new advanced drone packet or whatever that they have, it's just wildly expensive to get a good drone chip. It's incredible. I don't believe that they have this weapon readily available for you and just make it so asinine expensive that it's incredible. I don't know how they get away with this, but at the same point in time, a drone is just as important as your main weapon. It is a feature in this game that you need to fight with in order to fight at your full potential. Now, there are ways to make it less expensive. There are. First and foremost, for Camp Boss, Infected Invasion, you need a combat drone chip. The damage is critically different between basic chips and combat drone chips. Not having it, a combat drone chip it's night and day. It really is when it comes to damage. Now, do you need a Blood Hunter or a Blade Hunter or one of the tier 3 drone chips? No, you really don't. A tier 1 drone chip will do perfectly fine damage for you if your parts on it are up to par. Now that gets me to the second part. The parts, a lot of people think that if you want epic damage, you need epic parts, all of them. That's not true, actually. What I do, heck, I could show you my drones right now. If you look, you'll notice that my framework and my engine are really nice. They're really high end, and that's because those are the ones that deliver the AP, the attack power to my drone. And then you'll notice that my battery is kind of on par, but my navigator is shit. My navigator, there's no reason to spend a lot of money on your navigator for Camp Boss and Invasion. Your drone is not following you around very fast. It's not tracking your movements very fast, and it's not traveling very far to get to its target. Go super cheap on your navigator and go as expensive as you possibly can on your framework and your engine, and then just get a battery that can sustain the input from them with the proper output. You don't need to blow your budget. I've got 113 attack power drones, and they're not that expensive relatively compared to the rest of my damage. You would think I have the best drones on the server. I don't, and I don't need them. Neither do you. But having drones is necessary. For Camp Boss, I advise everyone to have 2 drones. That's so whenever one drone goes down, you can cycle up the next. While that drone is fighting, the other one is repairing. When that drone goes down, you cycle it back in and rinse, repeat. Having 2 drones is absolutely imperative for you keeping up your damage. I know it can be expensive, but that's, like I said, the game we play. I know what you're thinking, but you got to make it work if you want to perform at the highest level. This is not a pay-to-win thing if you play it at an acceptable level. I know plenty of free-to-play players that just make it happen. Put in the work, get the gold bars, get the formulas for the drone that you need, and make them yourself. They're not expensive. You don't need them to be. Just have over 100 attack power on a drone, and your damage will skyrocket. I'm talking about huge changes. Having 2 drones and cycling them is incredible. If you're on the super low end and you just can't make it happen, get a drone. Any old drone that shoots the fucking boss is great, and cycle it in. Your damage will go up. If you want real changes, get the combat drones. Do what I just said and it'll happen. Don't forget your drone. There's a reason it has its own letter. It's absolutely necessary. It's just as important as your weapon. Let's get on to the last one. S is the last letter of FEEDDS. It stands for Serum. Serum is still kind of new to LifeAfter, but as soon as it came on, we already knew how effective it was. With shields and sedative and all this other stuff, Serum is absolutely imperative. It's just like bringing your armor. Don't forget it and know what you need to bring. For Camp Boss, I tell my camp to bring the Hardener, which is the blue serum, and Sedative, which is the yellow serum. Sedative will slow the boss down when he's in general movement, like if he's in a chase phase chasing after a player. As long as he's not using one of his skills, he'll slow down with a sedative underneath you, which allows your entire camp to get headshots and shots in better with less misses. That's necessary damage. Everybody needs to be doing it. Now, I say Hardener instead of Amino because I don't want people in my camp to regenerate health. That's because we use Bloodbath on Camp Boss, and I'll cover that in the Camp Boss video, but what we want is for shields to stay maximum and health to stay low. If you know anything about Bloodbath on a weapon, the lower your health is, the more extra damage you do. So I always tell people for Camp Boss, bring blues and yellows. It's all we need. Never ever bring aminos, which is the greens. But at the same point in time, for every other event that you do, clash, invasion, whatnot, you need to know what serums that you need to bring. Your camp needs to go over that with you. Talk to your leadership. Make sure you know what to bring. For invasion, everyone needs sedative. It's the most important thing in the freaking world. And for clash, I would say bring sedative and hardener as well. That's literally my go-to is blues and yellows for for serums. Just make sure you have it. Don't forget them. There you have it, guys. FEEDDS, FEEEDDS. Formula plus energize, enhance, eat, drink, drone, and serum. This should go through your mind every single time you go through something. I really if you guys pay attention to this in bulk, we're going to see major increases on camps completing their Camp Boss, on camps completing their invasion, on camps participating and doing well in Clash. These things are necessary, and it's not just your higher end guys in your camp that need to perform this way. It's everyone, all the way down to the lower guys. It's absolutely necessary, because even if you're only doing 500,000 damage to Camp Boss, whereas you have people doing 3 million damage and whatnot, you're still doing a fair bit, and there's several there's a lot of you guys that are doing this damage, and it adds up. It adds up. You need to perform. Everyone does. It's not just up to your camp leadership to make sure this stuff happens. It's up to you. This is personal preparation for every event. If you want to support, if you want to excel, you need to do these things. And I'm hoping that a lot of you guys learned new things from this, so that we can really see some improvements on people participating and really competing in these events in Sandcastle. It's just the way that the game is. We're getting to levels high enough that there is wide separation between players at the high end and the medium level, and getting high up in the levels takes a long time. It's a lot of grinding that a lot of people don't want to do, but you don't need to be maximum level to play at the highest level that this server has. What you need to do is know knowledge does a lot more than mastery level.
Hey, see the